Oops! One innocent compliment to a Giantess. And now a human mechanic finds himself chained to her bed, bound by passion, tradition, and destiny. This is where humanity rewrites the stars.
The repair bay of Outpost Nexus 7 was never quiet. The constant whine of plasma welders, the rhythmic thud of pressure clamps locking into place, and the low background hum of the station's fusion reactors all blended into a metallic symphony that Jack Harmon had grown used to over the past 6 months. The smell was something else entirely, a mixture of engine oil, ozone, and a faint metallic tang that seemed to permeate every corner of the outpost. For most people, it was unpleasant. For Jack, it had become the scent of survival, the smell of the one thing he knew how to do better than anyone else here: fix broken machinery. Jack was sweating again, a thin sheen glistening on his brow, as he leaned over the engine core of a Taurian merchant vessel. With steady hands and practiced patience, he tightened the final sequence of regulators and muttered, half to himself, half to the ship. That should do it. The warp drive pulsed in response, its blue-green glow shifting from unstable flickers to a steady, powerful rhythm. The sound was almost like a heartbeat, strong, reliable, alive again. Jack allowed himself a smile. Moments like this were why he had taken the job in the first place. The satisfaction of bringing something broken back to life was universal, no matter what corner of the galaxy one worked in. What still surprised him sometimes was that he was the only human here. 6 months ago, he had been working in a dusty repair bay on Mars, fixing shuttles and arguing with corporate reps about overtime pay. Then the offer had come: triple his salary, a 1-year contract, and the promise of adventure. You'll be one of the first humans to serve as an interstellar mechanic, they'd said. Think of the experience, the opportunity. What they hadn't said was that he'd be completely alone, 17 alien species sharing Outpost Nexus 7, and not a single other human among them. He had learned quickly that humans carried a reputation in the wider galaxy, a species from a so-called death world, a planet with high gravity, volatile climates, and predators that would make most alien biologists blanch. Humanity was still new to the galactic stage, and rumors about their toughness and unpredictability spread faster than facts. Jack found it more amusing than anything else. Sure, humans were adaptable, but he wasn't a soldier or an explorer. He was just a mechanic who happened to be good with his hands. As he packed up his tools and left the repair bay, the artificial day cycle of the outpost was already shifting into evening. Golden light filters dimmed into soft twilight hues, casting long shadows across the metallic walkways and stone structures. The main thoroughfare bustled with life. Merchants bartered in sharp clicking tones. A trio of crystalline-bodied aliens glided past him, their voices vibrating like chimes. A lumbering reptilian dockworker carried crates that looked 3 times Jack's weight. Despite the differences, there was a unifying thread to it all. People, alien or human, always had somewhere to be. Jack was about to head back to his quarters when he saw her. She stood out immediately, not just because of her height, though. That alone was remarkable. Nearly 8 feet tall, she towered over most of the crowd, her presence commanding attention even in a sea of diverse species. Her skin gleamed with a bronze-gold luster that reflected the artificial lights overhead. She wore a form-fitting black suit that hugged her athletic figure, its material glistening faintly as though alive. Yet it wasn't her stature or her outfit that arrested Jack's attention. It was her hair. A cascade of silver poured down her back, shimmering as if each strand carried its own source of light. It caught the glow of the artificial moon, sparkling in ways that seemed almost impossible. Jack found himself staring before he could stop himself, captivated by how alien and yet strangely familiar her beauty was. His heart stuttered when her emerald eyes snapped toward him. They glowed faintly as though lit from within, and for a moment he felt pinned in place like an insect under a microscope. She began to walk toward him, her strides graceful, deliberate, and impossibly confident. The crowd seemed to part for her without a word, and soon Jack found himself standing directly in her shadow. "You are the human mechanic," she said. It wasn't a question. Her voice was melodic smooth, but carried a weight of authority that brooked no denial. "That's me," Jack replied, forcing a smile. "Jack Harmon, at your service." Instinctively, he extended his hand. Halfway through, he realized the gesture might not translate across species and nearly pulled it back. To his surprise, she clasped it firmly in hers. Her fingers were longer, stronger, but they shared the same basic shape as his. The contact lingered a second longer than he expected, sending a strange shiver down his arm. "I am Narvex of House Thalen," she said, her emerald gaze never leaving his. "My personal transport has developed an irregularity in its propulsion system. The local technicians lack the expertise to address it." Jack straightened, eager for work and grateful for a distraction from the way her presence seemed to fill the air around him. "I'd be happy to take a look," he said. Then before he could stop himself, the words slipped out. "Your hair, by the way, it's absolutely stunning, like liquid moonlight." As soon as he said it, he regretted it. His mouth had outrun his brain as it often did when he was nervous. It was just a simple, honest compliment, nothing more. But something in her expression shifted. Her eyes widened ever so slightly, and she stood perfectly still. For one terrible moment, Jack thought he had just committed some unforgivable cultural faux pas. Then her lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "Your observation is noted. Human Harmon," she said, pressing a small metallic disc into his palm. "My transport's location, tomorrow at first light." Before he could respond, she turned and strode away, her silver hair catching the lights once more. Jack stood frozen, staring after her. Something significant had just happened, though he couldn't for the life of him guess what. The next day, he went about his routine as usual. Fixing Nar's ship was a straightforward task, just a misalignment in the quantum flux regulators. He finished the job in record time, handed the system back over, and thought little of their encounter. At least he tried to. That evening, he walked home through the quiet outskirts of the colony, enjoying the relative calm. Buildings of smooth gray stone gleamed faintly under the light of the artificial moons. The air was cooler here, the sounds of the busy marketplace muted. He was just beginning to relax when, without warning, a shadow fell across him. He turned and found himself pinned against the wall by a familiar figure. Emerald eyes glowed in the dim light inches from his face. "You have awakened my call," human male Nar said in a low, sultry voice. "Now you are bound to fulfill your marital duty." Jack blinked. "I'm sorry, what now?" Her lips curved into a predatory smile. "Among my people, to complement one's essence is to initiate the bonding ritual. You have chosen me, and I have accepted. We are now promised to one another." Jack's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Wait. You think we're engaged because I said your hair was pretty?" "Not engaged," she corrected, her teeth flashing sharp in the moonlight. "Bound." Jack had the distinct feeling that his life had just taken a very unexpected turn. Jack's protest echoed off the stone walls of the alleyway. He half expected Nar to laugh and say it was all a joke, some elaborate alien prank to test the gullible human. But her eyes, glowing like molten emeralds, betrayed no hint of humor. Instead, she leaned closer, her height forcing Jack to crane his neck just to meet her gaze. "You deny the call?" she asked, her tone both curious and dangerous. Jack raised his hands in mock surrender. "I don't even know what the call is. Look where I'm from. Telling someone they've got nice hair is politeness. Courtesy. It doesn't mean I'm proposing marriage." For a moment, the towering alien said nothing. Then slowly she released her hold on his shoulders, giving him space to breathe. Even in the dim, artificial moonlight, her bronze skin seemed to radiate warmth, and Jack found himself uncomfortably aware of how his heart raced in her presence. "In your culture, such words mean little, Nar," said her voice measured. "Among the Thalen, our essence is sacred. To recognize it, to name its beauty, is to acknowledge compatibility as a mate. It is not done lightly." Jack ran a hand through his messy blonde hair, sighing. "Great. So I've managed to trip over the biggest cultural misunderstanding in the galaxy." But Nar's expression softened just slightly. "Ignorance is not without merit. There is honesty in it. Perhaps this is why the call was awakened." Before Jack could figure out how to respond, a new voice sliced through the silence like a blade. "Narvex of House Thalen, is this the one?" Jack turned. His stomach sank. Approaching was a male of Nar's species, taller than even she. Was his bronze skin darker, his silver hair cropped short in a soldier's cut. He wore armor that seemed alive plates of metallic material shifting and flexing with each step. His very presence screamed command. Nar straightened. Commander Krell. Yes, she said, her voice firm. This is the human who awakened my call. The commander circled Jack slowly like a predator assessing prey. His eyes narrowed. A human. From that death world they call Earth. His tone dripped with disdain. Small, fragile. Hardly worthy of House Thalen. Hey, Jack, snapped bristling despite himself. I'm standing right here, you know. To his surprise, Krell's eyes widened slightly, as if startled by Jack's audacity. Then with a grudging smirk, he said, It has spirit at least. Nar corrected him sharply. He, not it. The call has been awakened. You know our laws. Laws, Krell said smoothly, can be reinterpreted, especially when the survival of our people is at stake. Jack's confusion deepened. Survival? What the hell are you talking about? Krell ignored him, turning his gaze back to Nar. The Thalen are fewer than 500 now. Every bonding is critical. Every choice must strengthen the bloodline. His voice dropped lower, almost conspiratorial. You risk everything on this experiment. Nar's emerald eyes narrowed. My choice is my own. Krell's lips curved in a predatory grin. Then let it be tested. A challenge as tradition demands. You're human against my champion. If he prevails, your unusual choice stands. If he fails, you will accept candidates of my house. Jack's jaw dropped. Wait a second, don't I get a say in this? Both aliens looked at him as though he were furniture that had suddenly spoken. You awakened the call, Krell said flatly. Your choice has already been made. Jack groaned. I didn't know what I was choosing. Nar laid a hand on his shoulder, her touch unexpectedly gentle. Intent matters less than action among the Thalen. But he is correct, she added, looking at Krell. He was unaware of our customs. I propose a compromise, 7 cycles. Time for him to learn our ways to understand what he has initiated. Then, if he still wishes, he will face your champion with full knowledge. Krell folded his arms, considering. The living metal of his armor rippled across his chest. After a long, tense moment, he nodded once. 7 cycles, not a moment more. Prepare yourself, human. The champions of House Krell show no mercy. With that, he turned and strode away, his armored form vanishing into the night. The silence he left behind was suffocating. Jack let out a shaky breath. What the hell just happened? Politics, Nar sighed, her melodic voice tinged with weariness. Krell has sought alliance with my house for years. He sees you as an obstacle to what Jack demanded. To me, Nar replied simply. Her gaze locked with his, and for a moment Jack saw the weight she carried, the pressure of being born into one of the last noble bloodlines of a dwindling species. The Thalen are matrilineal. My bloodline is particularly valuable. Jack pressed his palms to his temples. So let me get this straight. I accidentally proposed to alien royalty, and now some space general wants to have me killed over it. Not killed, Nar corrected with that almost smile he was starting to recognize. Merely defeated in ritual combat. Oh, well, that makes me feel so much better, Jack muttered. You should, Nar said, surprising him. It means he recognizes you as sentient, worthy of challenge. It is a sign of respect. Jack barked a laugh. Your culture has a funny way of showing respect. As does yours, Nar countered, reaching out to brush her long fingers through his blonde hair, examining it with curiosity. This habit of complimenting without intent, it is most peculiar. Despite the absurdity of the situation, Jack shivered at her touch. He couldn't deny the magnetic pull of her presence. There was something intoxicating about her confidence, her otherworldly grace. Come, Nar said, taking his hand in hers. If you are to survive the coming days, we have much to discuss. Her private chambers were nothing like Jack had imagined. He expected austere military quarters, sharp edges, steel, and discipline. Instead, her sanctuary overflowed with life. Bioluminescent plants glowing in shades of blue and violet, organic furniture that seemed grown rather than built, and a soft ambient light that gave the room an almost dreamlike quality. Welcome to my sanctuary, Nar said, activating a panel that sealed the entrance behind them. Her tone was calm, but there was a gravity in her words. Few outsiders have ever been permitted here. Jack looked around, awestruck. It's beautiful. very alive. Nar inclined her head, her silver hair glimmering like starlight. The Thalan believe our surroundings should reflect the vitality within us. She gestured toward a curved seating area. Sit, we have much to discuss. Jack lowered himself into one of the chairs, surprised at how comfortably it fit his human frame. Nar moved to what looked like a preparation alcove and returned with two crystalline vessels filled with a glowing blue liquid. Thal nectar, she explained, handing him one. It will help you understand. Jack eyed the drink warily. Understand what exactly? Our ways, the challenge you face. It enhances neural connections, facilitates learning. It is harmless to your physiology. I checked your species database. He hesitated, then took a tentative sip. The liquid tingled on his tongue, sweet electric like honey mixed with lightning. He coughed lightly, then grinned. Not bad. Nar set her vessel aside and leaned forward, her emerald eyes piercing. Commander Krell will not allow you the luxury of ignorance. He will exploit every weakness. If you are to stand against his champion, you must know what it means to bear the call. Jack exhaled slowly, feeling the nectar already sharpening his senses. All right, then teach me. Because right now, I'm just a mechanic who accidentally stumbled into the worst arranged marriage in history. Nar's lips curved again into that elusive, almost smile. Perhaps, or perhaps you have awakened something greater than either of us can yet see. Jack woke the next morning still tasting the Thal nectar on his tongue, as if its electric sweetness had etched itself into his nerves. He blinked groggily, the alien chamber surrounding him glowing with faint bioluminescent light. For a moment he thought he was dreaming, caught between the familiar world of Earth and the strange reality of Outpost Nexus 7. Then his gaze fell upon Nar, already awake, her tall form outlined against the shimmering plants as she adjusted a control panel on the wall. You dream loudly, she said without turning. Her voice carried the faintest undertone of amusement. Jack rubbed his face. Sorry, not exactly used to being told I've been drafted into an alien marriage contract. Now she turned emerald eyes glittering. It is no contract, human Jack Harmon. It is the call. It binds deeper than law. Jack groaned. Yeah, you said. Sacred essence complementing hair equals lifelong commitment. I think I got the memo. He sat up still, half expecting her to tell him she'd been kidding all along. But Nar's expression remained earnest, serene, even as if she truly believed fate had woven them together with invisible strands. Your people, Nar said, walking closer, speak of fate in stories. Do you not? Jack shrugged. Some people do. I've always thought of it more like coincidence with better marketing. Her head tilted at the unfamiliar word, then she gave a small smile. Coincidence or fate, it matters little. The call has been awakened, and now you must survive what comes next. The training began that same day. Nar led Jack to a cavernous facility deep within the outpost, a chamber larger than any hangar he had seen. The walls were lined with weapons displays, holographic projectors, and an obstacle course that looked like it had been designed by someone who hated gravity. This is where our warriors hone their skills, Nar explained, in pressing her palm to a control panel. The environment shifted instantly. The lighting brightened, the air grew warmer. Gravity seemed to increase just enough to make Jack's legs feel heavier. I have adjusted the settings to match your homeworld. First, we must understand your baseline. Jack muttered, this feels like high school gym class all over again. But as the tests began, he realized quickly this was nothing like gym class. Nar pushed him through drills that tested speed, endurance, and reflexes. She had him sprint across shifting platforms, climb walls that changed angle mid-ascent, dodge holographic projectiles that fired at unpredictable intervals. By the time he collapsed panting and dripping sweat, Nar was studying a data pad with an expression he couldn't quite read. Well, he gasped, am I doomed? Her gaze lifted to him, and to his surprise, it was filled not with disappointment, but something closer to awe. Remarkable, she said softly. Your muscle density is nearly twice that of a Thalan warrior. Your cardiovascular recovery rate exceeds our norms by 30%. Your reflexes are less precise, but your adaptability. She trailed off, shaking her head. You are no ordinary mechanic. Jack wiped his face with his sleeve. Back home, I was exactly ordinary. Average height, average weight, average life, nothing special. Average for a death world, Nar corrected. Among us, you are anything but. For the first time, Jack felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't completely outmatched. The days that followed blurred together in a rhythm of grueling training and quiet conversations. Nar was relentless as a teacher, yet never cruel. She corrected his stance with gentle touches, demonstrated combat forms with precise fluid movements, and always reminded him of the stakes. To survive, you must adapt. And adapt he did. He learned that while the Thalin were stronger, they lacked endurance. They could strike like thunder, but they tired quickly. Jack's human body, shaped by a planet of extremes, recovered faster, endured longer. He learned to use agility, misdirection, and sheer stubbornness to stay on his feet. But training wasn't only physical. Nar also fed him knowledge about Thalin culture, history, and the politics that had brought them to this moment. He learned that centuries ago, the Thalin had ruled multiple star systems. But then genetic decline began, each generation producing fewer viable offspring. Entire bloodlines died out. Now fewer than 500 remain. Our essence is our legacy, Nar told him one night as they sat together in her sanctuary sipping Thal nectar. Every bond, every union is precious. When you spoke of my hair, something resonated. Our bodies recognize compatibility. It is rare, it is hope. Jack swallowed hard, realizing that for her, this wasn't just romance or duty, it was survival. And he, of all people, had stumbled into the role of potential savior. Their bond deepened in ways Jack hadn't anticipated. At first, he had resisted, insisting that it was all a misunderstanding. But the more time he spent with Nar, the harder it became to deny the pull between them. There were moments of levity, her puzzled fascination with human idioms, his clumsy attempts to mimic Thalin rituals. There were moments of quiet vulnerability, Nar confessing the loneliness of being heir to a dwindling house, Jack admitting he had left Earth partly to escape his own sense of insignificance. And then there was the night everything changed. They had finished a particularly grueling training session. Jack's muscles ached, his lungs burned, but Nar's emerald eyes shone with approval as she helped him to his feet. "You endure," she said softly. "Even when broken, you endure." Something in her voice made his chest tighten. Before he could second-guess himself, he murmured, "And you're incredible. Strong, fearless, beautiful." She froze as if the word itself carried power. Slowly, almost hesitantly, she reached out to trace the line of his jaw with one long finger. "No one has spoken to me like this before," she whispered. "Not as Nar the heir, nor as Nar the warrior. Only as Nar." Jack leaned into her touch. "Then maybe that's all I want. Just you." Their first kiss was tentative, uncertain. A meeting of two different species, two different worlds bound by curiosity and a growing fire neither could deny. Her lips were warmer than his, softer than he had imagined, and the contact sent a rush of electricity through him. When they pulled apart, Nar's emerald eyes were wide with wonder. "Your species' method of affection," she breathed, "is most effective." Jack chuckled, breathlessly. That's just the beginning. What followed was a night of discovery, of differences and similarities, of barriers broken not just physically, but emotionally. For all their contrasts, they found a rhythm that felt both alien and profoundly right. The next morning, Jack woke with Nar's bronze skin pressed against his own, her silver hair spilling across him like liquid moonlight. For a moment, he simply lay there marveling at how quickly his life had changed. Days ago, he had been just a mechanic worried about faulty warp drives. Now he was something else, something more. Nar stirred, opening her eyes. "You are staring," she said sleepily. "Can you blame me?" Jack replied with a crooked smile. "This isn't exactly how I expected my contract here to go." Her lips curved into that now familiar, almost smile, disappointed. "Terrified," Jack admitted, "but in the best possible way." She laughed softly, the sound like music. "Good. Fear sharpens, and you will need every advantage. Krell will not wait forever." Her words sobered him, but as she touched his hair again, as if savoring the essence that had bound them, Jack felt a strange surge of determination. Maybe this wasn't just about survival anymore. Maybe it was about proving that humanity, for all its flaws, had something worth offering the galaxy. That afternoon, Nar pushed him harder than ever before in the training facility. She adjusted the environment to Thal and homeworld conditions, Thin air, oppressive heat, gravity that pressed on his muscles like an invisible hand. Jack staggered, gasped for breath, nearly collapsed. But he didn't quit. Again and again, he dragged himself to his feet. Again and again, Nar watched with a growing spark in her eyes. When he finally collapsed, unable to rise, she knelt beside him, her fingers brushing his sweat-soaked hair back from his forehead. This, she whispered, is what makes you dangerous. Not strength, not skill, but will. Humans adapt. Humans endure. Jack managed a weak grin. Humanity. Hell yeah. Nar tilted her head at the strange phrase, then smiled. Yes, humanity, hell yeah. And for the first time, Jack truly believed he might have a chance. The next few cycles passed in a blur of training strategy and stolen moments of quiet intimacy. Jack was beginning to feel for the first time that maybe he wasn't completely doomed. Nar's teachings had sharpened his reflexes, proved his stamina, and more importantly, forced him to understand Thalan culture from the inside. He still thought their traditions were insane compliments, as of marriage proposals, ritual combat to settle disputes, but he couldn't deny their intensity, their weight, or the fact that Nar's people lived and breathed these laws as if they were woven into their very DNA. He was starting to adjust, and that was precisely when everything went wrong. It began subtly. During one evening session, Nar adjusted the environmental settings to simulate Earth-normal conditions, only to find the controls sluggish, unresponsive. Jack crouched at the edge of the obstacle course, frowned. That's not right, he said. Your system's lagging. Almost like the lights flickered. An instant later, the entire facility shifted. The air grew hot, heavy, and thin. Jack gasped as his lungs strained against the sudden lack of oxygen. The ground beneath him trembled as gravity spiked, forcing him to his knees. Nar, he croaked, clutching his chest. What the hell? Her expression was already grim. She sprinted toward the control panel, silver hair flying, her voice taut. Sabotage. Krell. Jack's vision blurred as the oppressive heat pressed against him, stealing the air from his lungs. He tried to crawl toward her, but every movement was an agony. This is what I'll face in the arena, isn't it? Yes, Nar snapped, fingers flying across the controls. Homeworld conditions. Thalan physiology thrives here. Yours does not. Her words blurred in his ears as his body screamed for oxygen. His mind spun back to Earth-dusty repair bays on Mars, the cool rush of oxygen tanks, the hum of ship systems when they functioned correctly. His instincts screamed at him to fix something, to adapt. But here in this suffocating chamber, all he could do was collapse. Darkness threatened to claim him. Then, just as he thought his lungs would give out, the environmental systems stuttered back to life. Cool air rushed into the room. Breathe human, a chittering voice said. Jack blinked, dazed, and saw a new figure scuttling across the floor. Smaller than the towering Thalan, this alien moved on multiple limbs that clicked against the metal with mechanical precision. Its iridescent exoskeleton gleamed under the emergency lights, and 6 eyes on stalks swiveled independently, scanning the damaged systems with unnerving efficiency. Nar breathed in relief. Your timing is impeccable. The newcomer gave a dry, insect-like laugh. Sabotage, this obvious Krell has grown sloppy. Oxygen rerouted, heat purge systems stabilizing. Its limbs danced over the console with such speed that Jack could barely follow. Within seconds, the facility's environment normalized, and Jack sucked in greedy gulps of air. He rasped. Who the hell is this? Tikra, the creature said, bobbing its eye stalks in what might have been a nod. Chief engineer of this outpost, and apparently the only one with enough sense to check the override codes Krell has been abusing. Jack staggered to his feet, still gasping. So you're saying this happens a lot? Whenever Krell feels threatened, Tikra replied smoothly, which, judging by tonight, means you've already exceeded his expectations. Nar placed a steadying hand on Jack's shoulder. He fears what we are building. Jack looked between them. Building, I'm just trying not to die. You underestimate yourself, human, Tikra said, its mandibles clicking. You have already become a symbol. The council whispers of you. The colonies gossip. A human bound to Narvex, some see doom, others hope. Jack winced. Great. I always wanted to be a rumor mill headline. That night, the three of them began to plan. Jack explained what he knew of engineering, of how systems could be bent, modified even under pressure. Tikra listened with fascination, its eye stalks swaying like reeds in a current. A mechanic from a death world, it murmured. Perfect. Nar frowned. Perfect for what? For turning Krell's arrogance against him, Tikra said, producing a compact toolkit filled with devices that looked impossibly delicate. These are micro tools designed for precision under hostile conditions. With modifications, they could serve your needs. Jack picked one up, feeling its weight. Ideas sparked immediately in his brain. Temperature regulators. Oxygen injectors. Yeah, I could rig something. Maybe even level the field. And Einar added, will ensure the council does not look away. Pren of the Elder Chamber owes me a debt. He will oversee the challenge personally. Krell cannot manipulate the rules unchecked. The plan began to take shape. Jack would enter the arena with an environmental compensator, a slim band worn around his forearm designed to regulate temperature and bolster oxygen intake. It wouldn't make him stronger than Krell's champion, but it would keep him alive long enough to fight smart. And then there was the secret project, a small disc no bigger than a coin that Jack was cobbling together from spare parts in Tikra's precision tools. It could reset the environmental system for 30 precious seconds, flooding the arena with Earth-normal conditions. 30 seconds isn't long, Jack said, soldering wires with steady hands. But if I use them right, Nar's emerald eyes gleamed. It will be enough. As the days passed, their alliance deepened. Nar drilled Jack in combat tactics, showing him how to exploit Thalin weaknesses. Their joints lacked flexibility, their lungs fatigued quickly under exertion, their size made them slower to change momentum. Tikra, meanwhile, supplied constant technical support, even rerouting power flows to disguise their training from Krell's spies. The three of them became something more than allies. They became a unit. Nar the warrior with noble blood, Tikra the engineer with too many eyes and too much wit, and Jack the human mechanic who had stumbled into the middle of their political storm and refused to bow out. Yet even in the midst of planning and training, Jack and Nar's bond only grew stronger. Late at night when Tikra had scuttled off to his own chambers, Nar would draw close to Jack, her hand brushing his, her voice soft. You ask what I want, she said one evening, her gaze distant. No one has asked me this before. Duty has always answered for me. But you make me wonder what it is to want beyond survival. Jack touched her hand, marveling at its strength, its warmth. Then maybe that's what we're fighting for. Not just to survive, but to want, to choose. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she leaned forward, her lips brushing his, in a kiss that was less tentative this time, less exploratory, more certain. A promise. But Krell was never far behind. Word reached them through Nar's political channels. The commander had petitioned the council to accelerate the challenge. His argument was simple and cruel. The human had already begun fulfilling his duty. Jack flushed red when Nar relayed this, realizing Krell somehow knew about their intimacy. Spying on us! Nar hissed, her voice sharp with fury. Krell didn't deny it. He appeared in the training facility the next day, flanked by armored Thalin warriors, his smug expression infuriatingly calm. The council agrees, he said smoothly. The challenge will take place at first light, not 7 cycles. Tomorrow. That's not enough time, Jack protested. Krell's eyes glittered. Then you should have considered that before presuming to claim one of the last daughters of House Thalin. His gaze shifted to Nar, sharp as a blade. Comply or face censure before the council. When he strode away, Jack turned to Nar, bewildered. What just happened? Politics, she said again, though this time her voice carried more venom than resignation. Krell has allies on the council. He fears you are improving too quickly. And he fears, she hesitated. Fears what? She met his gaze, her voice dropping to a whisper. That we are more than a ritual, that our bond is real, and that it could save my people in ways he cannot control. Jack's chest tightened. You mean? Yes, Nar said, her eyes glimmering. Our biological markers suggest compatibility. We could produce life, Jack. New life. The first of its kind. The weight of her words settled heavily between them. For Jack, it was staggering. For Krell, it was unthinkable. No wonder he was moving so quickly. That night, they worked feverishly. Tikra reinforced the compensator, improving its efficiency. Jack fine-tuned the secret disc, determined to make every second count. Nar, meanwhile, rallied her political contacts, securing Councillor Prin's promise to oversee the fight personally. Yet even with all their preparation, Jack knew the truth. Krell would not play fair. Sabotage, manipulation, intimidation. He would use everything at his disposal to crush Jack before he ever stepped into the arena. As they stood together in the dim glow of Nar's sanctuary, Jack looked at her and felt the enormity of it all pressing down on him. "I'm just a mechanic," he whispered. "I'm not supposed to be here." Nar placed her hand against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heart. "You are here, and that is enough. Humanity adapts. Humanity endures. You will endure for me." Jack swallowed hard, then nodded. "Then let's show Krell exactly what that means." The dawn of the challenge arrived too soon. Jack had barely closed his eyes before Nar was shaking him awake, her hand firm on his shoulder. Her emerald eyes carried no trace of fear, only the steel of determination. "It is time," she said. Jack rose, every muscle aching from the relentless training, every nerve thrumming with anticipation. He strapped the environmental compensator to his forearm, feeling the faint hum as it synced with his pulse. The small disc he and Tikra had built rested against his chest in a hidden pocket, its weight both a comfort and a burden. "Are you ready?" Nar asked. Jack managed a crooked grin, "As I'll ever be." The arena. The arena was ancient, carved from the stone of the colony's foundation long before humans had ever touched the stars. Circular, tiered with massive stands, it resembled something out of Earth's past, Rome reborn among the stars. But unlike Earth's colosseums, this one was filled not with one species, but dozens. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, their voices a chorus of clicks, growls, hums, and murmurs. Jack had never seen so many aliens gathered in one place, their colors and forms a kaleidoscope of galactic biodiversity. The sheer weight of their attention pressed down on him, and for a moment he felt smaller than ever. "Look around you," Nar whispered, squeezing his hand as they stepped into the preparation chamber. "They are not here only for spectacle. They are here to see if hope is possible." Jack swallowed hard. No pressure then. At the center of the arena stood the dais where Councillor Pren presided. The elder Thalen's silver-streaked hair shimmered in the morning light. Beside him, Commander Krell loomed, his face set in a smug smile. "Let the challenge begin." Pern's voice boomed, amplified across the stadium. Jack Harmon of Earth, claimant to Narvex of House. Thalen faces the champion of House Krell. Combat continues until submission or incapacitation. Lethal force is forbidden. A ripple of murmurs swept through the crowd as the far gate opened. And then Vaughn entered. The champion. He was massive even by Thalen standards. Taller than Krell, his bronze skin etched with ritual scars, his silver hair bound in a warrior's knot. In his hands he carried a staff of gleaming metal, its surface alive with shifting patterns. Every step he took made the ground tremble. Jack forced himself to breathe steadily. He reminded himself of Nar's words. "They are strong, but they tire. They strike with force, but lack endurance." He repeated the mantra like a prayer. Vaughn's emerald eyes locked onto him. For a moment, Jack saw only cold determination. Then just briefly, something flickered there, something that wasn't hostility. "You're the human," Vaughn rumbled, his deep voice surprisingly soft. "The one who thinks he can claim a daughter of House Thalen." "I didn't exactly plan it this way," Jack shot back, honestly. A flicker of amusement touched Vaughn's eyes. Few of life's most important moments are planned. Before Jack could answer, the horn sounded. The fight began. Vaughn moved first. The staff whistled through the air with terrifying speed, and Jack barely dodged the wind of the strike brushing his cheek. He stumbled, rolled, scrambled, back to his feet. The crowd roared. Vaughn pressed forward, each swing of the staff a thunderclap. Jack ducked, weaved, felt the compensator hum as it adjusted his oxygen levels. His lungs burned, but he endured. His smaller size gave him agility, the ability to slip through openings the giant warrior left exposed. Yet something was odd. Vaughn's strikes were powerful but not precise. He was telegraphing his moves, giving Jack just enough time to evade. "You're holding back," Jack whispered as he sidestepped another blow. "And you are more observant than most," Vaughn murmured, back his staff slamming into the ground in a shower of sparks. "Krell does not speak for all of us." Jack's mind raced. Vaughn wasn't just testing him, he was offering him something. "You don't want this fight," Jack asked between gasps circling. "This fight is bigger than us," Vaughn said under his breath, keeping his voice low enough that only Jack could hear. "Our people dwindle. Some cling to old ways. Others seek adaptation. You are proof of the latter." Jack ducked another strike, realization dawning. Vaughn wasn't an enemy, he was a potential ally. The environmental conditions began to worsen, heat rising, air thinning. Jack knew Krell was pushing the controls to favor Vaughn, ignoring the Council's restrictions. His chest tightened, his lungs strained even with the compensator. He needed to act soon. He caught Vaughn's eye. "I have a plan, but I need you to make it look real." Vaughn's expression remained stoic, but his almost imperceptible nod was all the confirmation Jack needed. When the moment came, Jack slipped his hand to his chest and pressed the small disc. At once, the arena flickered. The stifling heat evaporated, replaced with crisp, oxygen-rich air. Earth-normal conditions flooding his body with strength. He gasped, his muscles surging with renewed energy. For 30 seconds, he whispered. Vaughn attacked again, their movements now a carefully choreographed dance. To the crowd, it looked like desperate combat. But every strike, every dodge, every feigned stumble was designed to move Jack closer to Krell's dais. Now Jack hissed. Vaughn grabbed him and hurled him across the arena with theatrical force. Jack twisted in midair, landing near the environmental control panel Tikra had pointed out. With shaking hands, he slapped a second device into place. The arena's massive displays flickered to life. Data spilled across the screens. Krell's sabotage of the controls. Yes, but more than that. Records of genetic compatibility testing. Evidence that multiple species, humans included, could bond with Thalen. Evidence Krell had hidden. The revelation. What is the meaning of this? Counselor Pren thundered, rising from his seat. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs as Krell's face contorted with fury. He lunged toward the panels, but Jack rolled away, standing beside Vaughn once more. The meaning, Jack shouted, his voice carrying across the arena, is that Commander Krell has been lying. He's been hiding data that could save your species. He's been manipulating your traditions to keep control. Nar strode forward from the stands, her emerald eyes blazing. The records show genetic compatibility between Thalen and multiple species, including humans. Krell has suppressed this knowledge for his own power. The murmurs became an uproar. The crowd surged with voices, their disbelief turning into rage. This is outrageous, Krell spat, pointing at Jack. Fabrications. Counselor Perrin studied the data with cold precision. These records bear your signature, Commander. Explain yourself. Krell faltered, searching for words. But before he could speak, Vaughn stepped forward, placing himself between Jack and his former master. I stand with the human, Vaughn declared, his deep voice resonating. And with the future of the Thalen. The symbolism was undeniable. Krell's own champion had turned against him. The arena exploded in cheers, voices rising from every species present. Jack glanced at Nar, whose expression was radiant with pride and something deeper. Something that made his heart pound harder than any fight. The fall of Krell. Counselor Pren raised his hands for silence. His voice cut through the noise like a blade. This challenge has reached its conclusion. The human has proven both strength and truth. The call stands. Krell, you are stripped of command and authority. Krell's roar of outrage was drowned by the crowd's approval. His guards hesitated, then withdrew, unwilling to stand beside a disgraced leader. For the first time since this ordeal began, Jack allowed himself to breathe. His chest heaved, his body ached, but he had survived. More than that, he had changed something. Nar approached him, her towering figure cutting through the chaos. She reached for his hand, her grip firm and sure. You fought not only for me, she said softly so only he could hear, but for all of us. Jack gave a breathless laugh. I just wanted to make it out alive. You did more than that, human Jack Harmon. You gave us a future. That night, as the colony erupted in celebrations, Jack stood on a balcony overlooking the plaza. The stars shimmered overhead, the outpost alive with new energy. Behind him, Nar joined him, her presence a steady warmth. Do you realize what you've done? She asked. Jack shook his head. Honestly, not really. I just fixed a system and said what I saw. Her lips curved into that familiar, almost smile. And yet in doing so, you may have saved my people. Jack turned, meeting her gaze. Then I guess it all started with one stupid compliment. Perhaps Nar said, leaning in close. But sometimes the smallest words awaken the greatest truths. Their kiss under the alien stars sealed not just a bond between two beings, but the first step toward a new era of unity. The aftermath of the challenge rippled across Outpost Nexus 7 like shockwaves from a collapsing star. Word of Krell's disgrace traveled faster than plasma fire through the colony's gossip networks. By the next cycle, every marketplace stall, every mess hall, every docking bay echoed with whispers of the human mechanic who had exposed a commander, defeated a champion, and perhaps most scandalous of all, bound himself to Narvex of House Thalin. For Jack, it was surreal. One day he had been the outpost's odd curiosity, a death world mechanic with grease under his fingernails. The next he was being hailed as a symbol of hope, a bridge between dying bloodlines and new beginnings. Everywhere he went, alien eyes followed him, some with admiration, some with suspicion, but always with interest. Nar, for her part, seemed unshaken by the storm. If anything, she carried herself with greater authority, now her presence undeniable. She walked at his side through the crowded plazas, unbothered by the stares, her silver hair gleaming like a banner of defiance. "You've changed everything," Jack muttered one evening as they navigated the busy thoroughfare. No, Nar corrected gently, her emerald eyes softening as she looked at him. "We have." The Union. The Council moved swiftly after Krell's fall. With his corruption exposed, his allies abandoned him to save themselves. He was stripped of rank, his political influence shattered. In his place, new voices rose, voices that echoed Nar's call for change. And so just weeks after the challenge, the colony prepared for a union ceremony unlike any it had ever seen. Jack had never imagined himself standing at the center of an interstellar celebration, let alone one broadcast across half a dozen systems. He fumbled with the modified tuxedo, a blend of Earth formal wear and Thalin ceremonial garb, adjusting the alien fabric stitched into the lapels. The material shimmered faintly under the lights, shifting between black and deep bronze. "You look uncomfortable," Tikra chittered from the corner, his eye stalks swiveling in amusement. "Try wearing a wedding suit designed by 3 different species," Jack grumbled. "Feels like I'm wrapped in an electric blanket that can't decide if it's a shirt or a piece of furniture." Tikra made a sound suspiciously like laughter. "Consider it symbolic. Adaptability, yes." Jack rolled his eyes but couldn't hide his grin. Yeah. Humanity, hell yeah." When Nar entered, though, all discomfort vanished. She wore a gown that seemed to flow like liquid metal, blending Thalin ceremonial sigils with Earth-inspired elegance. Her silver hair shimmered beneath the glow of bioluminescent torches, her emerald eyes radiant with a light Jack had never seen before. For a heartbeat, he forgot the crowd, the council, the galaxy. There was only her. The ceremony blended traditions from both worlds. Thalin chants mingled with Earth music. Alien bioluminescent flora twined with human roses brought from hydroponic bays. When Nar clasped Jack's hand before the council and declared, "This is my chosen," the cheer that rose from the assembled throng shook the plaza. Jack squeezed her hand, leaning close enough for only her to hear. Not bad for a guy who just wanted to fix engines. Her lips curved into that familiar, almost smile. Not bad at all. The discovery. 2 months after the ceremony, Nar woke Jack in the middle of the night. Her emerald eyes were wide, her voice hushed with awe. "Jack," she whispered, guiding his hand to her abdomen. "I can feel it. New life. Our life." Jack froze, his palm pressed against her warm bronze skin. His heart stumbled in his chest. "Are you saying—" "Yes," Nar said, her eyes shimmering with both fear and wonder. "The call was true. We are compatible. I carry our child." For once in his life, Jack was speechless. His brain scrambled for words, but all he could manage was a choked laugh. Guess Krell really was right to be scared. Nar's smile was soft, tender. He feared change, but change is life. Medical scans confirmed what Nar already knew. Against all odds, the first viable human Thalin pregnancy had begun. The implications were staggering. Scientists and diplomats alike clamored for details. But for Jack and Nar, it was simpler than that. It was the promise of a future neither had dared imagine. Return to Earth. When the diplomatic vessel Harmony carried them back to Earth, Jack stood on the observation deck staring at his homeworld as it grew larger in the viewport. Blue oceans, green continents, white swirls of cloud. He had never realized how beautiful it was until he saw it through alien eyes. Nervous Nar asked, stepping beside him. Her hand slipped into his fingers, intertwining easily now. A little, Jack admitted. It's not every day you come home as an ambassador with your alien wife. Wife, Nar repeated, tasting the human word. Her lips curved into a mischievous smile. I am still adjusting to the term. Jack chuckled. Better than the giantess who forced me to do my duty. She raised a brow ridge. I did not force you. Eventually he teased, pulling her closer. You didn't have to. The reception at New Geneva Spaceport was overwhelming. Representatives from Earth's nations gathered to greet the first Thalan delegation. The crowd surged with curiosity, awe, and Jack couldn't help but notice more than a little skepticism. So you're telling us the United Earth ambassador said her silver-streaked hair gleaming under the lights, that this historic alliance began because you told her she had pretty hair? Yes, ma'am, Jack said with a straight face. Cultural misunderstandings can lead to interesting places. The ambassador chuckled, though her gaze lingered on Nar's gently rounded abdomen with undisguised curiosity. Life between worlds. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Diplomatic meetings, cultural exchanges, medical examinations. Nar was introduced to Earth's wonders, the first taste of ice cream. This will change your life, Jack had promised, and she had agreed with wide-eyed solemnity after her first spoonful. The sensation of rain falling on her upturned face, the chaotic symphony of Earth cities alive with noise and movement. In turn, Nar shared Thalan culture and knowledge with Earth scientists, genetic research, energy, technologies, philosophies of adaptation. Through it all, their bond deepened. Their nights were filled with laughter, discoveries, and the growing anticipation of parenthood. When Nar gave birth 6 months later in a specially designed medical facility, Jack held his son for the first time and felt his world tilt on its axis. The child's skin was bronze, a shade lighter than Nar's. A dusting of blonde hair crowned his head, and when his eyes opened, they shimmered between human blue and Thalan emerald. Thalin, my Nar whispered, exhausted but radiant. In our tongue, it means bridge between worlds. It is his name. It is his purpose. Jack's throat tightened. It's perfect. Harmony Station. 1 year to the day after Jack had first complimented Nar's hair, they returned to Outpost Nexus 7. But it was no longer the same. The council had officially renamed it Harmony Station in honor of what had begun there. They stepped from the shuttle into a plaza filled with diverse species all gathered to see them. Tikra scuttled forward, his eye stalks bobbing excitedly. The human who changed everything returns, he chittered, and with the next generation no less. Jack laughed, shifting little Thalan in his arms. The child cooed, reaching curiously for Tikra's waving limbs. The station itself had transformed. Once rigidly divided into segregated zones, now it pulsed with integration. Species mingled freely. Research initiatives explored compatibility between dozens of endangered populations. For the first time in centuries, there was hope for survival beyond the Thalan alone. That evening, Jack stood at the viewport of their quarters, watching the stars glitter beyond the station's dome. Nar joined him, placing their son gently in his cradle before leaning against Jack's side. Did you ever imagine this? Jack asked softly. When you first cornered me and told me I had to fulfill my duty. Nar's laugh was low and musical. Never. I was following instinct, tradition. I could not have foreseen this. This, Jack echoed, pulling her close. A family, a future. All because I couldn't keep my mouth shut about your beautiful hair. Her eyes gleamed with warmth. Perhaps sometimes, human Jack Harmon, the greatest duties are the ones we never knew we were meant to fulfill. They stood together in silence, watching the stars. Around them, Harmony Station thrummed with life, the sound of dozens of species daring to believe in something new. And Jack the mechanic, who had stumbled into destiny with a single compliment, couldn't help but smile. Humanity, he whispered with quiet pride, hell yeah.